Hi everybody, this is June 2nd, 2024. I've just walked back to my happy place at McDonald's from Mass. I just went to a really beautiful Mass at Our Lady of Fatima. And I've been doing these videos as a video journal of dealing with the really torture by isolation and confinement of my little brother, Paul Kierans, who had Down syndrome, by his group home, L'Arche. That's L'Arche, L'Arche. You can Google it. L'Arche was started by two now known SEXPREDATORS, Jean Vanier, who was a retired Canadian naval officer, and Thomas Philippe, who was a defrocked, excommunicated Catholic priest from France. So the two of them cooked up a scheme where they started group homes for profoundly mentally handicapped adults, and then they preyed on the women that they would entice to come and work for them. It's a cult, and it's still ongoing, and it's still. We didn't know this. My mother moved Paul to British Columbia to be near me and my sisters, here, my other sisters here, and she placed Paul in a L'Arche group home, and he was moved around from different group homes. L'Arche's business model is they hire foreigners. There's no other word for it. They're not Canadian citizens. They're just people who want to pass through Canada. Young people who have English as a second language. Nobody has English as a first language that works for L'Arche. And they pray. Well, Jean Vanier, for almost 60 years, preyed on these women, these young women, and it didn't stop. And it wasn't exposed until he died in 2019. And L'Arche was allowed to investigate itself, and it wrote a 900-page document, which I'm sure none of you I haven't seen or read, was never investigated by the police. The workers are not unionized, and governments love it because it sort of has the air of religiosity. And the workers aren't unionized. So the governments can hold the vulnerable citizens, and these are citizens, at arm's length. And they can blame L'Arche. Ultimately, they'll blame L'Arche if push ever comes to shove and anybody's ever held to be accountable. I guarantee it's going to be L'Arche. But it is the British Columbia taxpayer that paid for my brother. Other than the care that my sisters and I provided him here in BC, he lived with us on weekends and holidays. So we were not paid at all. We received nothing, no compensation whatsoever for his care and traveling with him. When one of my sisters took him to Newfoundland once, and I took him to Newfoundland twice to visit my father. So I felt pretty good at Mass. I dragged myself there because it's hard to go when I feel like God didn't answer my prayers. L'Arche terminated when I complained about a bogus, fraudulent, forged power of attorney created by L'Arche. They terminated my visits. Their lawyer, Tara Britnell, wrote me a letter saying, "You'll never see your brother again." That evil bitch. Sorry. It's terrible language coming straight from Mass. Anyways, so I'm using these videos, these daily videos, as a journey to show this, to document and to help deal with the trauma of watching my brother be killed before my very eyes. So Paul was locked up by L'Arche for 588 days, 10 hours and 15 minutes. He died on April 23rd, 2024 at 10:15 a.m. So the L'Arche's lawyer ordered my nun sister 4,000 kilometers away to terminate Paul's visits with me. And I was just not able, with every effort that I made, I was not able to restore the visits. And, I beat myself up about it because, I graduated law school 33 years ago, almost today. I was the first single mother to graduate from UBC Law School. And it was an incredibly arduous, difficult, Herculean task to raise 2 children and to graduate law school. But I did it. And I beat myself up for not being able to save the one person I love the most, my little brother with Down syndrome, from these evil state perpetrators, the BC government and L'Arche. But afterwards I realized, when people are doing something that's criminal, if you can't beat them in civil court, it's usually because what they're doing is criminal. And that's what they were doing. I wasn't allowed to visit my brother until after 2.5 days after he had a stroke, according to my sister. When I actually did see him face to face, he had a laceration, a wound on the side of his head that was oozing blood. So I don't know if he had a stroke. I don't know what happened. Before he died, I was allowed 4 10-minute visits with him. And he was improving. The first thing when I saw him, I held his hand and I said, "Paul, it's Kathleen." And he squeezed my hand like a steel vice. So that was on April 15th. And then the next time I visited him, I brought a big book of old Hollywood movie stars, like a huge coffee table book that a neighbor had given me for him. And I showed him the book, and as soon as he saw the book, he grabbed it from my hand, and he sat up, and he started turning the pages perfectly. And I couldn't believe my eyes. He was just absolutely astounding. When you think that your loved one has died, or they're on the verge of dying, and then they come back so miraculously. And then she made me the evil bitch nun, pardon my language, but that's what she is. Ordered me to leave. It's another reason I'm having trouble hanging on to my Catholic faith. But anyways, so he grabbed the book from my hand and turned the pages, and I could see he was recovering. Then the next visit that I was allowed, I walked in the room, and by that point, my nun sister had moved him to a palliative care ward where she was alone with him in a room, and there was another bed in the same room, which she shouldn't be allowed to do. She's a nun, okay? So she should not be allowed to sleep in the same room as a man, but she did. She's as much a nun as Willie Picton was a nun. Willie Picton just died. He was beaten up in the prison he was in a couple of days ago, and he died. Hallelujah. Anyways, so the point I wanted to make was my nun, the evil nun. I sat out in the hallway for 12 hours a day, as long as my brother was at Burnaby General Hospital. Remember that. Never go there. Never go to Burnaby General Hospital. This is my second nightmarish experience with that dump. I was sitting on the hallway, and this Dr. Baker came out and sat in front of me and said, "Kathleen, May told me to talk with you about Paul's condition." And at that point, I had a hearing in front of a judge the following morning, April 22nd at 9 o'clock. And I said, "I don't know what you're planning on telling me, but my brother better be alive tomorrow at 9 o'clock. And this Dr. Baker all the doctors at Burnaby General, I met 2, and they were both so nasty. And he looked at me he wouldn't look me in the eye. He had this really shifty-eyed demeanor, and they both looked dirty. One of them was Asian. His name was Dr. Pham. And he was in dirty, torn scrubs. And he told me he would call the police if I went on the ward. And I showed him, I had said, I've got 2 reports from 2 different psychiatrists saying that it's in my brother's best interest for me to be able to visit with him. He said, I'm not going to look at that. You're not allowed on the ward. But now, now that I've had the chance to think about all of this and, the process, the experience, I realized that what these 2 doctors wanted to do was they wanted to kill my brother. They wanted to kill him. They were going to kill him. And they could see that I didn't want him killed. And their look in their eyes was exactly the look that every victim sees in the eyes of a murderer. And they did kill him. And I've complained to the police because although in Canada the law has changed, and Canada pays doctors to kill about 20 innocent, vulnerable people a day with what's called medical assistance in dying. It was 20 a day the last time I checked. I'm sure it's far more than that now. And the last time I started counting, 41,000 people had been killed by doctors. But I could see the look in both of these doctors' eyes as I'm processing it now. It was a look of a murderous gaze, that they were going to kill my brother. They were going to kill my little brother, and I wasn't going to get in the way. But it's not legal to kill incapable people in Canada yet. They wanted to change the law, and disabled people who are mentally competent can be killed. They can ask to be killed with very little. 2 medical practitioners who are strangers can sign a piece of paper, not in front of a lawyer. Lawyers don't have to be involved at all. Anyways, the point I wanted, or just what I wanted to share today, was so that I wanted to convey to you, to anybody that's watching this, is what it's like to be on the receiving end of that gaze from those 2 doctors, Dr. Pham and Dr. Baker at Burnaby General Hospital, when they wanted to kill my little brother. And they knew I didn't want him killed, but they were going to do it. What this medical assistance in dying does not recognize is that there are some human beings that like to kill. They like the feeling of power. They like to kill. And these 2 doctors, they eyeballed my brother. They could see that my sister wanted him dead, and they wanted him dead too. And by golly, he was going to be dead. And by golly, he was dead. He was dead within 10 days of being admitted to that hospital. After being virtually healthy his whole life. I can't remember the last time. In fact, I don't think he was ever hospitalized as an adult. But he was dead within 10 days of being admitted to Burnaby General Hospital. And I asked the Burnaby RCMP, I called them, and I said, I'd like you to supervise me meeting alone with my brother and ask my sister to leave. And the Burnaby RCMP, I've already documented this in another video, this little twit of a 5-foot-tall RCMP member, this tiny little woman who did not inspire confidence. I don't remember her name, but I've got it written down somewhere. Anyways, she said, oh, no, I can't ask your sister to leave the room. I said, I'm telling you that I believe my brother is being victimized by this woman. And you don't interview the victim in front of the alleged perpetrator. That's rule number 1 of police procedure. But she would not ask my sister to leave because she wanted my brother dead too. The first thing that Hitler did when he got into power in 1932 was he cleaned out all the hospitals of disabled people. He called them useless mouths. That was the first thing he did. And people didn't stop him. They thought, kind of makes sense. Economically, kind of makes sense. My brother was very expensive. They spent a hell of a lot more money fighting my ability to visit him. Anyways, this happened to me, and my brother was disabled, and he obviously had Down syndrome, and he was not capable of agreeing to be killed. He wanted to live. I could see the look in his eye. I've cared for him his whole life, and I knew that look. My sister had only met him. The nun had only met him on a few occasions. And the first thing I'm going to do tomorrow is I'm going to write a letter to Archbishop Michael Milner of Vancouver and complain about my sister, because medical assistance in dying is against the Catholic Church's teachings. And my sister pretends that she's a Catholic nun. Anyways, that's me reporting on this nightmarish lunacy that has descended on Canada since since Justin Trudeau came into power. I remember the day. It was October 19th, 2015. And if it could happen to my little brother, it could happen to you. Paul, I'm so sorry I couldn't protect you, dear, but believe me, I tried everything I could think of. And I hope you're happy in heaven. Take care, everybody.